Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 29th part of What If Deku Was a Magical Girl Mascot, Quirk, Magical Girl Mascot. The author of this great fanfic is Emma Ibely. Links to them and original story in the description. Chapter 29, Finally. Izuku was pantsing. There was something wrong, he felt so lonely. And Yaoyorozu knew that something was very much wrong. However, thankfully Yaoyorozu had an idea to distract Aizawa. She created a flashbang grenade and blinded their teacher. While he was distracted, Yaoyorozu grabbed Izuku and they got away. In the observation room, both Hachiko and Inko noticed that their gems regained color. It was only temporary, sighed Hachiko. Probably a good idea to wait to transform back, said Inko. Hachiko nodded. She also took out her cell phone. Maybe I should text them, said Inko as Hachiko had a flip phone. Hachiko nodded as it would take much longer for Hachiko to text. With Katsuki and Shoto, they noticed that their gems gained color. What happened? Asked Shoto. It's probably Teach, muttered Katsuki. Shoto's eyes winded remembering that Izuku was facing off against Aizawa. So he can turn off us being magical girls but not completely break the bond, said Shoto, if that's what happened. That was when they both got Inko's text, me and Hachiko are watching the exam. She just transformed back when Aizawa used his quirk. Both of them were relieved that theory was true. Let's just wait until their test is over, muttered Katsuki. Shoto nodded. Back in the exam area, Izuku's ears had returned to normal but his tail was nowhere in sight. It also looked like he was still freaking out. Midoriya, said Yaoyorozu. That was when he took a breath and pulled the back area of his costume in a certain way. His tail popped out of a hole. Sorry about that, when my tail reappeared my costume was misaligned, said Izuku blushing. The hole wasn't in the right spot and it was clear it the cause that discomfort. What happened? Said Yaoyorozu. I guess it's always been there, but I guess I always feel the connection that when it disappeared it hit me hard, said Izuku. It wasn't permanent. Are you sure? Asked Yaoyorozu. If I did lose the bonds permanently I wouldn't be in my human form, said Izuku. Oh right, said Yaoyorozu. She sighed. I guess we shouldn't go with the plan, said Yaoyorozu. No, said Izuku, who was moving his hands in an odd way. If he hits me again I have to be ready for it. She looked at his costume and noticed the tubes in his gloves and the containers. Wait, said Yaoyorozu. That was when she creates several Russian nesting dolls, some red, some green. What? Asked Izuku. She began to explain what the nesting dolls really were. Izuku nodded, realizing how clever they were and would be able to distract Aizawa long enough if he gets caught up in his quirk again. She also gave him a pager. He quickly realized it would let him know when everything was ready. I hope this works, sighed Yaoyorozu. She then opened up part of her costume at her stomach when his stream of cloth came out of her stomach. Izuku nodded while blushing and ran off in a random direction. He wasn't sure where to go, only that he hoped that Aizawa would find him instead of Yaoyorozu. He looked around. That was when he felt the pressing loneliness again as his ears and tail disappeared. So it looks like your quirk isn't a mutant quirk after all. He heard Aizawa away to him. He was expecting this time around and he managed to dodge Aizawa's scarf, which of course was a weapon. However, Izuku knew he should use the first distraction. I haven't tried this yet, said Izuku, taking off the container off his belt. He twisted it and threw it near Aizawa in an area that didn't have buildings to keep damage to a minimum. Aizawa stared at the container. He remembered reading about it. He closed his eyes as her prepared for it there. The container was a type of bomb. It was designed to collect sweat while Izuku was using Katsuki's quirk and store it to use later and blow it up when the time was right. The explosion a bit bigger than expected. Oh, that happened to be bigger, said Izuku as the two recovered. However, Izuku realized that Aizawa was about to recover when he switched to Ochako and used the quirk on debris, taking advantage of it. Aizawa realized what Izuku had done and knew he had to get out of the path of the debris before using his quirk again. He looked at Izuku, realized that Yaoyorozu wasn't there. "Are you distracting me so that she can make it to the escape point?" said Aizawa. "No," said Izuku. And he was being honest. Though Aizawa didn't buy it, the second that he was no longer in range of the debris, he used his quirk on Izuku. However, Izuku managed to get over the feeling of loneliness and grabbed one of the red dolls. He opened it and activated it while also shutting his eyes. It was another flashbang grenade. The red ones were flashbang grenades. "What?" said Aizawa. However, he suddenly found his scarf tugged away. It was made of multiple pieces of tape and a couple of them were taken away. Aizawa was about to say something. But that was when the pager went off. It was ready. He then grabbed a green doll. He closed his eyes as he threw it to make him think it was something else. Before it exploded, he covered his mouth. As it was a smoke bomb, the green ones were smoke bombs. Izuku far away enough that once it was clear Aizawa would be able to see him. Hoping he would take the bait. Once the smoke was clear, Aizawa had seen him escape and decided to follow him. Izuku knew it wasn't a good time to try to use Tenya's quirk, but he did use Katsuki's to give him a boost in speed. What is he up to? Thought Aizawa. Izuku knew he was getting close, so he decided to use another smoke bomb. Aizawa noticed this and prepared for either one. He jumped through the smoke, prepared for Izuku. What he wasn't expecting was Yaoyorozu with a catapult with something resembling his scarf. She launched the tape at him. "This isn't going to work," he said. He had assumed that it was just like his scarf. It wasn't. That was when Izuku activated Shoto's quirk and heated up the tape-like material that wrapped around him. "It worked," said Izuku. Aizawa looked at the two as best he could as he fell. They were able to soon cuff him, passing the exam. In the observation, Inko was crying a lot, but using her tissues and drinking the sports drink. "Oh, Izuku, you're so cool," cried Inko. Ochako giggled at the mother as she was used to it. Momo Yaoyorozu and Izuku Midoriya passed the exam. And soon everyone knew it. "Should have known Deku and Ponytail could pull it off," said Katsuki, transforming once again. "Were you worried?" asked Shoto. "Of course not," muttered Katsuki. Back in the testing area, as they passed the test, they let loose their teacher. "So you were able to come up with a plan without bonding," said Aizawa. "I did offer to bond, but Midoriya didn't think it was a good idea," said Yaoyorozu. "Hopefully you won't have to make any more bonds while you're in school," said Aizawa. About that," said Izuku. Aizawa knew that Izuku hadn't made any bonds with his classmate due to the restrictions put in place. "I didn't make it yet, we're still planning when to do," said Izuku. "Who and why?" asked Aizawa, hoping that whatever the reason why was a good one. "Hagakure, and her reason is because she wants an actual costume," said Izuku. "The fact she wanted to be a magical girl wasn't going to fly." Aizawa sighed when he heard that, not because it was a bad reason but because giving her an actual costume was such a big problem. While her hair was able to be made into a costume, it was quickly realized that it couldn't be detected by certain devices, like infrared and night vision. Not only that, but there weren't anyone suitable in Japan that could make the costume. Only 3 possible people who lived in Japan could possibly see her hair, however there were problems. One was old and was a dementia patient, the second was about 6 or 7 and wouldn't know how to do it, and the last was a villain that was currently in prison who used their quirk to get past laser security systems, which opened up a mess problems with them making a hero's costume. Shipping someone from another country would have been expensive, not to mention the price they could have done to hire it. Each student had an allotted budget for their costume. It was designed to make sure that someone didn't go overboard with the materials that made their costume or just use expensive materials to make their actual costume. He remember Aoyama wanted an actual bejeweled cape in his version of his costume, but it was soon rejected because it was too expensive, along with being a hindrance. So having someone who settled for going around naked, when she was frozen once and nearly frozen during the USJ, it was probably a good idea to bond with her. There should have been exceptions to the rule if it depended on safety, but it was just one of those cases. She asked after I told you not to make bonds, said Aizawa. She did, said Izuku. Aizawa sighed. Bond with her before camp if she passes, said Aizawa. Izuku nodded. They also began to talk about other aspects of the exam. Meanwhile, in the observation room, Ochako once again transformed. That was when Tsuyu came into the room. "Hey Tsu," said Ochako, getting ready to leave. "So how was Izuku exam?" asked Tsuyu as she did hear the announcement he passed. Then she saw the pile of tissues on the floor in front of Inko. It was quite massive. "At least you didn't pass out," said Tsuyu, making Inko blush. "Mine's next," said Ochako. "Good luck," said Inko. Ochako nodded and laughed. She was a little nervous as she was going up against 13, who was her idol. Hopefully she would pass. She wasn't sure, but hopefully she would. But little did she know was that her exam would affect her life in very unexpected ways. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 30. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.